So, on March 19th, 2026, I woke up to this! Yep, that's right. BCOL 4652, a BC Blueberry, was on CSX B464. Now, I don't think I've mentioned this in a video, but I've been scammed by blueberries so many times. And so, when I saw this, I was like, yeah! Now, unfortunately, I was screwed, because no one was available to take me to Walkerton at the precise time that the train was going to come through. My mom had to go to a lacrosse game, my dad and my aunt were at game night, and those are the three people I normally rely on to take me places, so I was doomed. Until I was talking to my aunt, and she said, "Why don't you just ask your grandpa to do it?" And so she called him, and he was like, "Heck yeah! Thank you so much. You saved my butt on this. I would have had a mental breakdown otherwise." Everyone just have a moment of silence for how awesome he is. And guess what? Things got even better. Because when we got there, one of the CSX Maintenance of Way High Rail drivers was just getting off his shift. And he was like, "Oh, are you a rail fan?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "What you here for?" And I'm like, "B464." And he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, here's the CSX app that tells me the exact location of every single train that I have. B464 is in Bremen. It'll be here in like 20 minutes. And as you can imagine, I was very excited. And not only did he tell me that, but he also told me there were 3 other trains coming, which is absolute insanity for this line. You see, for context, the Sunday before this outing, I had been here for 2 hours, and there was not a single train that came. So as you can imagine, knowing that there'd be 4 coming in the next half hour or so was, shocking, to say the least. And approximately 5 seconds after I finished my conversation with him, I looked down the tracks and saw the headlights of an eastbound, being CSX M370. Now, you might have noticed in this footage that the camcorder is on a tripod, and there's a reason for that. You see, remember way back in June when I got that old A630 out and I said that the reason why I was able to find it was because I was looking for the battery for my mom's Canon camera? Well, we found it. That camera is a Canon Rebel XS, and despite being really old, it takes amazing photos. So I decided to pivot, setting the camcorder up on a tripod, since now I have a super beefy tripod, which is stolen from my other grandpa. So yeah, all the grandparents are contributing for this outing. This was definitely not my first time using the XS, but it was the first one you're gonna see. So there's that. The first time I used it was when I went to Otis Hill, but you'll have to wait for that video, haha. Anyways, enough yapping, here's M370. However, after the head end of M370 cleared, we realized we were about to get blocked because the headlights of CSX M665 were now visible in the distance. I ran back to the car and we started driving away so we'd go to a different spot and not get blocked. But just as we were driving away, we noticed the 2 DPUs of M370 approaching. Knowing we either had to pick between M665, which we didn't know 100% chance if we could beat, or the 2 DPUs, I decided to go with the DPUs. As M665 rolled behind the grain hoppers of M370, I realized I had a flared mace trailing, and I was very mad about missing that. I went from mad to absolutely positively fuming when I saw the 2 engines come into view and realized they were both GEVOs. Great. However, that disappointment lasted a mere 30 seconds when I realized what GEVO the leading one actually was. I managed to see CSX 5500, the Spirit of Cincinnati, completely randomly. I had no idea it was DPU on M370, as you could probably tell by my actions earlier, and I am so glad I didn't cross the tracks, because otherwise I would have missed this unit, and I probably wouldn't have gotten the mace anyway, because it was really close. So yeah, my terrible decision-making ended up actually being good, and my terrible decision-making also got me a perfect meet between the ends of the two manifests. And just after the two manifests cleared, I went back to the main spot at Walkerton Interlocking Tower, looked down the tracks, and there it was. The red front of a CN unit. CSX B464 with BCOL 4652, a BC Blueberry trailing third, was here. I was very, very, very excited. I don't think I need to tell you that. And as the train got even closer, I realized it was crawling. So you know what that means? Chase potential. Oh yeah. And because it was crawling, I managed to also get some really cool photos of the BC Blueberry as it rolled past. Some of my favorite photos I've ever gotten. And hey, the footage wasn't half bad either. It actually turned out great for being on a tripod. I cannot believe I actually saw a BC Blueberry. Like, what is this? Of course, being a BC Blueberry in golden sunlight on the CSX Garrett subdivision, I was not going to pass up the chance to chase it. So I jumped back in the car and we started flooring it down Highway 6 to try and beat them. Unfortunately, they started accelerating, and I mean quickly accelerating, once they got out of Walkerton, and it took us a long time to catch up with them. And just as the engines were coming into view, well, this happened.
No, it's gonna block us!
Yep, CSX X566, the other eastbound manifest, suddenly appeared, and it blocked my view of the Blueberry. However, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because we still had a little bit of ground to make up before we could actually start seeing the Blueberry. And just as that was happening, the NDPU of X566 appeared, giving me a perfect meet between it and the BC Blueberry. And of course, after that, I was able to grab a very awesome, although brief, bit of pacing footage. I didn't want the chase to end here, and we were trying to beat them to Range Road, but they started accelerating seriously, even faster than they were before. So unfortunately, this was the last time we got to see them, as by the time we made it to Range Road, they were already way too close for us to commit to trying to go see them on the crossing. And yeah, that was the end of our B464 adventure. And oh boy, was it crazy. There's not really a fitting ending. I didn't even see the end of the train at all during this trip. But yeah, I'm just going to say this is absolutely the most insane walk-in trip I've ever had. So, I guess that has to count for something. Catch those units while you can, especially the BC Blueberries, and I will see you in the next video.